Untitled GM, we are back. I know you've seen us before, Oakland Raiders fan base, Raider Nation. We gave you the draft recap. We broke down your draft. We loved your guys' draft. Now we're here for the quarterly report. The Oakland Raiders are 1-3 right now, guys. They just got their first win against the Cleveland Browns this past week. Why are they 1-3? Let's start there.
I mean, can we talk about the elephant in the room? And I hate to say it, somebody's gonna get upset. I'm sorry, but Khalil Mack's not there. The pass rush isn't there, and they're scrambling to find the pass rush, man. Offensively, they had a chance to win that game. Derek Carr threw the pick in the red zone, trying to get it to Jared Cook. And that offense is kind of was slow to start, but it looks like they're starting to rev that up. So I mean, it's just slow start on offense, no pressure on defense, and here you are 1-3.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that analysis. The big thing for me offensively is obviously this is a new offense, and it's not a simple offense. Gruden coming from that West Coast, cut out of that West Coast cloth. Lot of movement, a lot of formations, a lot of personnel groupings. There's a lot to digest. And you're bringing in a lot of new characters into this as well. You know, after the aforementioned Jordy Nelson comes to mind. So there's that has taken place. But despite their record, I think the fan base, you know, if you're going to hang your hat on anything, is the fact that the Raiders have been competitive in all 4 games. They've been competitive in all 4 games. They have to. This group, despite the fact that it's become more veteran laden, they still have to figure out kind of how to win together. Your quarterback is still fairly young. You know what I mean? They've managed to find Amari Cooper this year, and he's being more involved. And certainly, you know, we had a situation where, you know, Cooper went off, and then Nelson went off, and one would go away, and the other. This last game, they both kind of stepped in and made plays, and Jared Cook has been kind of that constant in the passing game. But I think more Marshawn Lynch. I think more Marshawn Lynch. You're probably sitting at
least
2-2, at least 2-2. You know what I mean? And I know there's a stat out there in terms of how many times he's getting touches within the red zone. It gets a little cute when they get inside the 5. You have a huge offensive line. You invested in Colton Miller. Brandon Parker's now filling in for Donald Penn. Punch them in the mouth, and lean on beast mode a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to the defensive line. That's the reason you guys are 1-3. The struggles, the injuries. You lost Justin Ellis, PJ Hall, a draft pick that we loved. He's not. He's been hurt, and you brought in Clint McDonald, Jonathan Hankins, and it's just been a struggle at stopping opposing teams' runs. I know Nick Chubb had played 3 plays, 2 carries, 105 yards. It's a gaping hole in the middle of the Raiders defense right now. I know it's injuries, younger players out there, but I think that's a big issue right now with the Oakland Raiders. Offensively, I think, like you said, they're starting to hum, learning the offense. They got a lot of receivers, like more beast mode, like you said. If I had to pick out something with Derek Carr right now, it's his deep ball, man. It's just hanging in the air far too often. He's not getting that zip on his deep balls, and they have a lot of big play deep ball receivers, man. He just have to connect with those guys.
They got to catch it too, you know. Yeah, they got to catch it too. No, I agree. That's an area that Derek Carr needs to improve in. Last year, he really took a step back in terms of that deep ball. But certainly his supporting cast has to help him some more. And like I said, I think his coach needs to help him some more by turning around and handing the ball over to beast mode. Use play action. You know what I mean? That's going to create those deep in breaking routes and double moves. You know, once you bring those safeties up and you can start to really take advantage of it. And we're already starting to see it. But to me, the team looks completely different. And Beast Mode has said it before. He's gone on record before. It's not just the offense. It's not just the offense that a running game helps. It's the defense too. It's keep them off the field, and it's also the mentality. It's a mentality. Yeah. You talk about mentality all the time, Drew. It's about beating up the opposition. And frankly, in this league, as you've seen to this point, we're talking about 7-on-7 now. Oh, yeah. We're talking about 7-on-7 now. So I think the teams that are the most physical, you got to kind of figure out how to play within these new rules. But I think the teams that ultimately are the most physical are the teams that typically have the most success. So make that physicality, have an identity, and make that physicality your calling card.
Let's go back to the defense real quick, and let's talk about up the middle with you talked about the D-line. How about those linebackers and a Whitehead and a Derek Johnson and is it Lemur?
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't, we know a Whitehead, we know a Derek Johnson. These are veterans. These are guys who everyone's familiar with, but they're not, no one's spectacular. Derek Johnson maybe 6 years ago might have been that guy.
Sure.
And Whitehead's always kind of been okay, maybe a little above average at his best. A little above average at his best, but they're missing a guy who they can really count on, who can be a guy who can make plays. I don't think any of those guys are going to make plays consistently. They may do their job, but it just might not be sexy. It might not be whoa.
Sure.
It's just and then let's talk about the safeties, man. Carl Joseph. What are we talking about? This is a guy who they drafted 3-4 years ago. What are we doing with him? And I know Jon Gruden's there, and I know he likes his players, and and then you have the old man Reggie Nelson, and then we can talk about the two corners, man. Conley looks like he's coming into his own finally, and going into the season when we talked about the draft, the big thing that we talked about with this team, one of the big things we talked about outside of up the middle was the secondary. Can they stay healthy? And right now you got Melvin who's struggling. But he's getting that work with no more receivers, and you got Conley on the other side taking on the number 2s, the number 3s, whatever, and he's actually having success. So that defense. I mean, hopefully they can find a spark in the guys they picked up in was it free agency, I guess you want to call it, and then I know that they're looking for that. Let's go back to the pass rush. They're looking for that pass rush. You're not gonna find it now.
The one guy, you're obviously expecting Bruce Irvin to, do his thing, and certainly you like what Arden Key can bring to the table. Arden Key is developing edge rushers, interior rushers for that matter. When they're young, it generally takes some time to develop. But you've seen some flashes here or there, just not nearly consistent enough. Maurice Hurst, to me, has been the standout. Has been the standout among everyone on the defense. Yeah. As that 3 technique, that traditional 3 technique. Again, we talked about it during our draft prep video in terms of being able to get him as late as they did in this draft, and I think he's certainly lived up to the billing. So there are certainly positives to kind of pull away from what has been a difficult start to the season. It certainly has, and on the field, the good news is that they have consistently been competitive. There's been some faux pas and some mishandling of some things off the field, financial wise, so on and so forth, the media relations aspect of things. But these guys seem to be showing up. There was some footage out there in terms of guys kind of loafing, whatever the case may be. Hopefully we don't see any more of that. But certainly by and large, the team has been competitive. Heather, I wanted to ask you, what do you think moving forward? What this next 4 to 6 games here? What do the Raiders need to do? Who needs to step up in order for them to garner more wins?
Well, I think we spoke about it in the draft recap, and why we loved that Oakland Raiders draft was the trenches. They invested heavily in the offensive line, the 2 tackles, and the defensive line. Had three new defensive players: P.J. Hall, Arden Key, and Maurice Hurst. Yep. So they invested heavily in the trenches. So for them to get back on track, we spoke about it earlier, is to rely on that offensive line, Colton Miller, and those guys, and run beast mode more. Have a physical, have them going forward instead of coming backwards into block. And also, it's a defensive line. I know they've had some injuries there. Justin Ellis was a huge loss for them, but they need to create some pressure on the quarterback. So I think the trenches, if they could improve in those areas, offensive and defensive line, then they can have success going forward.
Speaking of the offensive line, what has been your assessment of Colton Miller thus far?
He held up nicely the first 2 weeks against the Rams, and the Broncos have terrific defensive lines. Lately, I just think the penalties, the holding, he's holding a little bit too much. Coming into the league, we question his pass protection, his technique. We know he's a athletic guy. He can run block, but technique-wise, it's showing up that he's holding guys more often than not, and he just had to clean that part of his game.
I'm a economics major, degree in economics, so I'm gonna use that. I don't use it too often, but I'm gonna use it here. And I'm gonna talk about
who the hell uses their major.
Who does? If you do, hit it down in the comment section. Let us know. and the school that you went to. But you talked about the rookies on both sides of the trenches, and you want to get that return on your investment. That's economics, right?
ROI.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. No, make sure. Okay.
There you go.
You know, and that's what this team needs. That's the name of the game right now. Is get that return on investment. Obviously, you don't usually want that many players that you're looking for, but when you let go of Khalil Mack and you add a bunch of veterans that kind of aren't working out, a little bit here, a little bit there. You got to have that return on investment.
Yeah, man. So there you have it. That's our quarter review. Raiders Nation, we wish you good luck. I know we have the Kansas City Chiefs are really hot over there, but they have some chinks in their armor as well. So when you play them, hopefully you get a W, man. But we're CoffeeTableGM.com. CPGM Juice, Drew, Headley.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Raiders in the building.